its way into power was the promise of Tony Abbott to be a Prime Minister for Indigenous Australia. I think we've got an answer to that. Can you all please give a big roar to Ken Canning, Aboriginal writer and activist.
Thank you. One term, Tony, that's one term too many. I want to talk today about the intervention in Northern Territory, but I'll briefly speak about this budget, if you can call it that. Now, prior to the budget, Abbott had hit at marginalised groups already. He'd hit Aboriginal people, he'd hit legal services for $14 million, or $14 million, he hit legal services. He was demonising same-sex marriage couples, and he was obsessed with asylum seekers. Now this budget just carries on from where he started. He started with the marginalised group, and the budget has hit every marginalised group in this country, including our people. As we've heard today, $534 million from Aboriginal programs. We are the poorest group of people in this country, and after 226 years of occupation, we have been left with the most problems. Now, what I have to say to that is this government will and has already got blood on its hands. You strip that much money out of Aboriginal affairs, deaths will occur. That's as sure as night follows day, deaths will occur.
They can run but they can't hide.
That's right, sister, they can run but they cannot hide. And Tony, you cannot hide from facts. You cannot hide from facts. Your whole mission and your predecessor, John Howard, was to liberate our people. Now the Northern Territory intervention was put in 2007. It was bought in fraudulently and based on lies. We all know that now. That mysterious preacher came on, I think it was late night. Yeah, I get them all mixed up with that doyen of media personalities, Tony Jones. I don't know how on earth he got on there. He exposed a story of an alleged youth worker. An alleged youth worker who'd spent allegedly 6 months in Aboriginal communities and discovered there was numerous pedophile rings running out of Northern Territory. This was a lie. Now that alleged youth worker had not spent one single night in a community, not one night. It was later to be found he was in actual fact a Howard staffer, and more to the point, the then Minister of Aboriginal Affairs, Mel Brock, it was his boss. He goes on all blurred up, he exposes this story, next thing we got Howard coming out giving an intervention order. Why does he pick something like this? Nearly every Aboriginal male in the country felt ashamed to go out on the streets. Aboriginal men in the central desert areas felt ashamed to come out of their house. Yet, several investigations later found no such thing occurred. No such thing occurred. Now, if it was about alcohol and violence, he couldn't put it on because he'd have to put it on the broader community. Also, he picked the most emotive target in the country is pedophilia. He stated pedophile rings were operating out of there. That was his reason for the Northern Territory intervention. That was effectively to silence any opposition. Anybody who hears that is immediately stunned. And it did, it worked. It worked. Rudd stood silently by and let it go through. The Gillard government extended by 10 years. Abbott hasn't even mentioned it. Now what we've had since the intervention is people who've absolutely disappeared from the Northern Territory. Troops, truckloads of troops went out into the Northern Territory. People grabbed their children and took off. Some of those people have never been seen again. Now, The other thing we've got to look at here, you've got communities like Borroloola up in the Western Cape area, who are now, it's settled down in the last couple of weeks, but they've been under siege. Mining companies want that land. They want the land. They have had thugs in uniform in on a nightly basis doing what they call law and order raids, heavily armed in front of little children, flexing their muscles. Every community in the Central Desert area is putting up with the same thing, yet we talk about terrorism overseas. We've got Aboriginal children being traumatised and terrorised on a nightly basis. This intervention was only put in for one reason. It's the biggest land grab since 1788, and it is operating on behalf of the mining companies. Now, what do we have to follow that? $500 million taken out of Aboriginal affairs with a blink of an eye. $500 million. Do you imagine how many programs we're going to lose out of that? You look at just legal services alone. We have the second highest incarceration rate in the world. We have one of the highest deaths in custody rates in the world. When we strip these fundings off, our preventative programs will go. That will mean there'll be more people incarcerated. That will mean there'll be more deaths in custody. As far as I'm concerned, this is murder at government hands. And I will not shy away from that. Abbott, if you have your media people out there, take my photo, I don't care. ASIO, if you're out there, take my photo, I don't care. This government has done enough to our people. I don't care anymore what you do. I'm willing to fight you until I'm old and grey, and our brothers and sisters will follow us. Now, what he's done with these hits, he's hit everybody large and wide. The effect of that is he wants to fragment you, put you in different little groups, and you'll go off fighting in your own little groups. That won't work.
Well, tell the Queen to give up the crown and bring it back to Australia. Why don't you?
Yeah.
Why don't you the Queen in Australia? That's me.
Yes. That's right. The royalty belongs in this country, not in England. Now, don't be fragmented in this fight. Don't the youth go off on their own, the old people go off their own. Fight together. But when we fight together, do not forget the First Nations people of this country. This government has shown us one thing. It is only accountable to corporate Australia. Did you know $14 billion a year goes in diesel fuel subsidies to the mining companies? Gina Reinhardt makes $1 million every 30 minutes. Now, $14 billion goes to them. $500 million is stripped from us overnight. Now, look at that in perspective. This just shows you they are bought and sold by used furniture. That's all these politicians are. They're bought and sold by the corporations, and I'll call it for what it is. From an Aboriginal perspective, this is nothing more than attempted genocide by a government policy enacted by men who are simply Ku Klux Klan in silk ties. Thank you.
Ken Canning, isn't he great? Because just remember, Australia, if they can do it to refugees on Manus Island, they'll do it to you. If they can do it to Aboriginal Australians in remote communities, they can do it to you. If they can do it to the young and the unemployed, they can do it to you. If they can do it to senior Australians, they can do it to you. If they can do it to people with disabilities, they can do it to you. If they can do it to working families, they can do it to you. If they can do it to students, and they will do it to students, they will do it to you. There is one fight that involves many people. It is the people of Australia versus the Abbott government.